A Western Renaissance is a broilin', partner. No, not Yellowstone. If I wanted to listen to macho Menshevik boomers lecture about proper pronoun usage, I already have Michelle Obama's Twitter handle. At least I think it looks like a handle. But enough about the first fella, because there's something in the water, and I ain't just talking about the fluoride. Whether it's a fair few Western games shattering all-time sales records, 1883 boring us all into somnolescence, or the recent influx of films announced for the 2024 slate, Westerns ain't quite back, but all indications are they're about to be. So I says to Mabel, why not help my audience in on the ground floor of this long dormant genre? But I can still see some of yous scratching your pates in bewilderment at what makes a good cowpoke tale and what decidedly don't. So I reckon, given that I have my own shameless plug, Western comic book graphic novel, The Ghost of the Badlands, launching this Friday, April 21st on Indiegogo, I reckon it's high time for High Noon. But first, a few ground rules for my fellow pistoleros. 1, what follows is only a list of Westerns which inspired my upcoming comic. Not the greatest, not the most earth-shattering, but the things that made me want to make a Western. So don't be shrieking and shitting because the movie or show you construe to be the goddamn greatest didn't make the cut. I don't make the rules, but actually, I fucking do. 2, no neo-Westerns, whatever the deep-fried fuck that even is. Not because I don't like them, but because any genre that begins with a neo prefix is an excuse for an effete fucking French guy to play genre police. Fuck you, Frenchie. If I need a film, I'll look at your teeth. And so, without a further ado, here's a few RazörForce-Approved 6-shooter symphonies that inspired my upcoming comic, The Ghost of the Badlands.
Where are you? Come on out and show yourself. Here I am.
I love me some spaghetti westerns, and in the annals of Italian cinema, there is one holy trinity. They're all named Sergio, and they are, without exception, jaw-droppingly, chair-snappingly fucking fat. Sergio Leone, Sergio Corbucci, and the oft-forgot, criminally underrated raconteur, Sergio Sollima. Though celebrated, and rightfully so, for Face to Face and Run Man Run, for me, the masterpiece in his filmography is 1967's Lee Van Cleef classic, The Big Gun Down, a testosterone-kinetic tale of a lawman turned senator dispatched by his fellow shitbag politicians to run down a Mexican involuntary sex enthusiast, only to discover a broader conspiracy at play, culminating in a succession of scintillating cinematic duels, awash in one of the finest film scores ever written by the almighty Ennio Morricone. The Big Gun Down is everything brilliant about spaghetti westerns with style points aplenty. But what separates Sollima from some of his contemporaries is, while Corbucci or Leone could at times appear mired in formula, Sollima's films were first and foremost fucking films. In short, there are scenes in Sollima westerns that simply would not be shot in any other film of its period. Sure, you get a spectacular duel, in fact you get fucking several, but it's the sequences seemingly plucked from a period drama or even comedy that sets Sollima apart. For example, the morose, lingering wide shot as a widowed rancher woman shrieks after Lee Van Cleef's character, imploring him to take her with him now that he's gunned down everything with a dick, effectively marooning her in the middle of the desert.
I'm afraid. Please, please don't leave me here alone. Please, please, don't leave me here alone.
Be gone, fuck!
Or the fascinating bit of dialogue from a regal Austrian duke as he plays Beethoven on piano and imparts the secret to his exceptional dueling skills. A scene where Lee Van Cleef says more with silence than Tom Cruise could in a 20-page fucking monologue.
When you are about to kill a man, what do you look at? I've asked this question of other men, and do you know what they always say? They look at his hands. I don't. I look at his eyes. Because a moment before he moves his hand, his eyes betray him. And you can always read death in them. Yours. Or his.
The Big Gun Down is a sizzling spaghetti western, as only Selima could make it. A man who never kicked up quite as much trail dust as his forebears, but by God did he drop some doozies. And speaking of said contemporaries...
Didn't hear what the bet was.
Your life.
What about The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly? The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is like a cheap prom limo. Too long, too slow, overpriced, and overrated. Remember, send all hate mail to moviebob@tripplechin.mantits/giant-fucking-bald-spot. All right, I'm mostly trolling, folks. I love the fuck out of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. But for my peso, straddling the line betwixt the trim tribute to Yojimbo, A Fistful of Dollars, and the indulgent, turgid grandeur of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, for a few dollars more, features and fucking perfects the finest facets of both, expounding upon the leaner, more direct, plot-driven storytelling style of Fistful without lapsing into lengthy asides where we watch Tuco take a bath or a wall-eyed henchman eye fuck a fly. Contrary to popular belief, it was neither Fistful of Dollars nor The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly which at long last broke the series into America, but the absolute box office banger that was For a Few Dollars More. Stunning, stylish, and oh so fucking fun, For a Few Dollars More shows greater narrative ambition than its predecessor, and for the most part, realizes it thanks to a fruitful experiment with twin protagonists. Returning from the inaugural entry is Clint Eastwood's heretofore nameless character, here entitled Menko. But the serial scene stealer in For a Few Dollars More is Lee Van Cleef's classic anti-hero, Colonel Mortimer, a dapper law dog hot on the heels of Eastwood's bounty, who takes the opportunity to show the young pup a fair few tricks.
How can somebody in my business go around with a contraption like this?
That contraption almost sent you to your grave.
But forgetting one thing, Colonel, I was shooting at your hat.
Well, I was only shooting at yours.
What's impressive here is that Eastwood's badass bounty killer character does not suffer from the superb performance of his counterpart. Far the fuck from it, as Eastwood had by now utterly inhabited the archetypal renegade Western role. So successful was For a Few Dollars More, it would find itself the subject of a dedicated parody film released the very same year, For a Few Dollars Less, itself written by Sergio Leone's own rival and the man who had originally given him the idea to reimagine Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo as a Western, Sergio Corbucci. And speaking the fuck of which...
My girlfriends are afraid of what's in that box. But it doesn't really frighten me. After all, a coffin's a coffin. Is there someone inside?
Yeah, and his name is Django.
In the early 60s, Italian director Sergio Corbucci, aware the samurai film genre had already adapted American westerns in a fucking feudal setting, hatched the idea of stealing their ideas right the fuck back. The problem? Sergio Leone was within earshot, and so it was A Fistful of Dollars, rather than Corbucci's lackluster Grand Canyon Massacre released in the same year, that would wind up touching off the spaghetti western whirlwind, one that would see over 500 fucking films released in that genre before the decade's end. But Corbucci was undeterred, and so just a year or two later, he offered up his own reimagining of Yojimbo in Italian western style. And so, with a classic gothic western swagger, a stranger rides into a town all but obliterated by the combat of a thinly veiled analog for the KKK and commie Mexican revolutionaries. But unlike Eastwood in the aforementioned Fistful of Dollars, the eponymous hero, played brilliantly by Franco Nero, doesn't so much play both sides against the middle as openly oppose them both.
Well, men, did you hear what our friend said? What do you say we prepare him for his burial?
Well, Major, I just got one bullet. But that would be taking advantage.
It's dark, it's dour, but it also doesn't take itself entirely seriously. And after an experiment with shooting the film in the snow backfired due to the limitations of the Italian film set, Corbucci simply replaced the snow with mud. A filthy fucking Western where the cast of duplicitous also-rans are arguably more modeled than the set. Corbucci, incidentally, would get a second chance at that snowy setting idea a little later when he finally filmed The Great Silence in 1968. But what seared across screens in 1966 was arguably the only non-dollars film in its genre to be equally influential. Indeed, Django-exploitation became a genre in and of itself, with over 30 unofficial sequels by rival directors shat out at appallingly frequent intervals. In truth, virtually none of them have anything at all to do with the character, let alone continue his story, but with Django a seismic hit at the cinemas, so the logic went, as an Italian director, you could either take your chances selling your original Western yarn absent any association with an established brand, or you could call it Django something. Often, and perhaps even especially, if not a solitary character in the fucking film was ever in danger of being called Django. There are a few exceptions, though. Django Prepare a Coffin functions as something of a prequel, and it pulverizes, even with Terence Hill replacing Franco Nero in The Overcoat, while Django $10,000 Blood Money is a masterful side story starring Johnny Garco of Sartana fame, but more on him a little later, in a classic bounty-hunting revenge tale. Don't let Tarantino's inferior fucking reboot fool you. There can be but one Django, and it's Franco fucking Nero.
What's your name?
Django. The D is silent.
I know.
Gentlemen, the symbol on my holster is a chest knife. It's an attack piece, the most versatile on the board. It can move 8 ways, over barriers, always unexpected.
In a hail of gun smoke and a wagon train of TV westerns, one show dared to do it differently. It would be dark, it would be pulpy, it would have action and moments of levity for effect, but it would also tackle socio-political controversies of its era in a style that wouldn't be seen again until Star Trek.
Well, Mr. April there, he believes that a man should choose the lesser of 2 evils. But the book he carries tells the story of one who refused that choice. Or did I read it wrong, Mr. April? Did I read it wrong? All evil begins in a compromise. One principle sacrificed for a cause. One man's life for the protection of the majority. You say nobody can carry guns in this town. So the only people who have guns are the outlaw scum who will continue to come through here. You can't protect the people of this town, but you take away the only means they have of defending themselves.
All right, that'll come. 3 Winds will grow.
Right now, 3 Winds is struggling for existence, and it's hard enough without imposing the restrictions of an organized, developed city.
I'm going to stick to what I believe.
Well, I've said it, and you proved it. You're a childish fool. Why don't you leave the making of this world to men?
Which is apropos, as it would frequently feature the writing talents of none other than Gene Roddenberry on his way to produce that very show. And unlike many of the other cowpoke programs of its era, it would somehow pack all that shit in to a half fucking hour. From his black trail clothes to his quintessential gunfighter crown and that magnificent Richard Boone pencil stash, the roving gentleman gunfighter Paladin was an instant smash. Spawning comics, books, and a long-running radio show, it was clear this Knight Without Armor in a Savage Land had struck gold from the outset, such that when westerns vanished from the airwaves by the early 60s, Have Gun Will Travel was one of the fair few examples that actually stuck around for a spell. Paladin is an Old West Batman, a man of many talents, interests, and abilities with an origin as nebulous as his nomenclature. It's precisely this manner of mysterious, morally binary badasses my own comic, The Ghost of the Badlands, is ultimately birthed from. Have Gun Will Travel is not just some clumsy black and white pastiche your pappy watched when he was a kid. It's a kick-ass action western mystery featuring an all but immortal main character for 6 superb seasons. Next!
Who are you? You knew my mother.
We now move into the more modern portion of our list, and there's a bit of an issue here. Most modern westerns don't do a damn thing for me. Oh, they have their self-evident attributes for a fact. As filming and cinematographic techniques progress, westerns of the past 10 to 20 years are outright eye candy. But what's missing, in my estimation, is that elemental, existential something, that slight supernatural aspect, the sense that the stranger who rides into town could be anyone and anything. Why, he could even be an avenging angel. In this 2014 spectral Austrian western, The Dark Valley stands utterly apart. A dour, mysterious, and stark tale of a mousy young man who rolls into a town only to gradually unveil his true purpose: to avenge an ages-old affront to his family. Driven by a desire for justice, the man exacts a measured vengeance against his foes, systematically annihilating them in a style reminiscent of Eastwood's iconic High Plains Drifter, all in a snow-swept setting that evokes favorable comparisons to Sergio Corbucci's classic, The Great Silence. It's the movie Quentin Tarantino thought he was making when he started wiping his hacky ass all over the script to The Hateful Eight. But unlike that fucking film, it's actually watchable. This movie was a massive influence for The Ghost of the Badlands because it hinted that a dark, divine judgment western fable was indeed possible and still possessed universal appeal, even in the modern age. If you're one of the many who missed it upon release, rectify that at Mach speed.
You released your slaves that you still fought in the war. Why? Honor. The Southerner and his honor. Where is your wife now? She's dead. Did the war take her? Something like it.
So let's address the pachyderm perched in the corner of the room. Now, Hell on Wheels is not as good as Deadwood. Few things fucking are. But in retrospect, particularly when viewed in a binge, it's clear Hell on Wheels wasn't trying to be the next Deadwood. It was instead a faithful homage to Eastwood's Angel of Death trilogy that quietly featured an unflinching examination of the omnipresent corruption of Lincoln, Johnson, and Grant's railroad subsidy system that asks as many uncomfortable questions about the necessity of the Civil War and Native American relocation as you are ever likely to encounter in a mainstream TV show.
Credit Immobilier will be awarded all major construction contracts on the Union Pacific Railroad. I own it. I'm giving you the chance to get in on the ground floor.
So you'll be paying yourself to build a railroad with government subsidies?
Now that, my friend, is inspirational.
You know, I rode with Martyr John Brown.
John Brown was a cold-blooded killer.
You in a position to throw stones in that account, Mr. Bohannon? Because, you know, one night, you authored the deaths of 5 men, slave owners. We pulled them from their homes and butchered them with broadswords. You know, drunkard I was, I neglected to put an edge on my blade. It was hard work, brother, but I kept a-hacking. And a-hacking. And a-hacking till I couldn't hack no more. I used to be a lot like you, Colin. The only difference was I had a cause. What is yours?
Yeah, John Brown's dead. That's right. Yeah, I believe we hung his sorry ass.
General Grant sent authorization to levy taxes.
If you are proposing to
tax me in order to pay me for my land. Why don't I just give it to you?
An interesting proposition, Mr. Duran.
Cheyenne is my city, run by my mayor, and supported by railroad.
You sound like an unreconstructed Southerner, but we'll remedy all that.
This show should have been a bigger hit, and really, in my eyes, AMC bears the entirety of the blame. Not because they didn't promote it, although compared to The Walking Dead and Breaking Bad, they virtually goddamn didn't, but because perhaps more than any other program on that network, Hell on Wheels was written in the style of an HBO drama. Less an episodic series, and more so one long novel with peaks and valleys in its plot and action. In one long binge, this makes for a deeply satisfying, rich experience. When broken up by commercials for paper towels and Preparation H, far too many segments end on downbeat dialogue and come back in on downbeat dialogue, which cultivates the frankly unfair impression that nothing was fucking happening on this show. Look, Hell on Wheels was appointment television for me when it originally aired, but upon rewatching it in a full fucking binge a few months back, let me assure you, the show hits entirely fucking different without all the one-a-day commercials. It still isn't Deadwood, but at its best moments, it evokes strong comparisons to the same cinematic westerns it's inspired by. And speaking of which...
Book!
Fuck me.
I do have a knife. Come to me now. Welcome to fucking Deadwood.
What do you say about a show so goddamn good it spawned an entire wave of Western movies, shows, and even video games in its immediate aftermath? Deadwood is a work of art, a masterful fusion of profanity and fucking Shakespeare. Indeed, the entire show is literally written in pentameter, making for some of the richest, multifaceted dialogue you will ever be utterly fucking pulverized by.
Why ain't you up and running again?
I'm in despair. The physical damage is repairable, but the psychic wound may be permanent. Stop it, Al.
Are you dead?
Well, I'm in pain, but no, I'm obviously not dead.
But obviously you didn't fucking die when the dog slapped you.
No.
So, including last night, that's 3 fucking damage incidents that didn't kill you. Pain or damage don't end the world. Or despair, or fucking beatings. The world ends when you're dead. Until then, you got more punishment in store. Stand it like a man, and give some back.
The sheriff joins us.
Whiskey.
Sheriff recently put me on notice he is vigilant of my possible transgressions.
You sound drunk to me.
Whom are you addressing?
You. You sound drunk.
Do I? When I say fuck yourself, Sheriff, will you put that down to drunkenness or a high estimate of your athleticism?
Hanging a bow on the Shakespearean proclivities, within just a few episodes, the show's morally gray villain, Al Swearingen, is literally delivering soliloquies to the severed skull of an Indian chief he'd earlier placed a bounty on. A reference to Hamlet that's just about as subtle as its profanity.
And, as the dim-wit nobility that made him intercede may now make him reticent, you, Chief, will be my prop and ploy whilst I seek to draw him out. I congratulate myself on having kept you around. Why make a show of disposing of you was my fucking thinking. It's not like we need the storage space. And if there's a chance in 1,000 you people have been praying right, why get your boss's attention?
David Milch's thought process in creating the show was that the two best-selling books of the period were the Holy Bible and the complete works of William Shakespeare. Far from the Texas drawl dunderheaded dipshits depicted in all too many Hollywood westerns, civilians of the 1870s were, to put it frankly, far more literate than you or I, while the thematic byplay of the ornate Victorian verbiage of the era, peppered with profanity in a lawless camp simultaneously aspiring to civilization, wasn't lost on anyone with a functioning brain. Most impressively of all, the Deadwood movie, released just a few years ago, arguably surpasses the dialogue of the original. No mean feat when it's written by a man suffering the early stages of dementia. But Deadwood's finest attribute in my eyes is that it's essentially a 3-season civics lesson, an all but forgotten American parable of how a community with no law whatsoever and zero oversight from the federal government began to cooperate, became a community, and finally a city so far ahead of the curve of the rest of the country, they installed some of the first working telephones.
My goodness, a voice? Hello in there. I'm calling the town of Lee. It's Deadwood's mayor, E.B. Farnham, relegated to magnate Senator George Hearst's errand boy. Calling lead lumber at the senator's behest. The Negro will lay slain before this concludes.
The Ghost of the Badlands historical setting of Canyon Diablo, Arizona is deeply inspired by this approach to historical fiction. A Western that is utterly uninterested in contemporary revisionism, but deals frankly with the fact that while government can indeed establish a city, only the people can create a community. The show's biblical underpinnings, featuring a recurrent analogy about the body of Christ, undergird this approach at every turn in a flourish of absolute brilliance by creator cum writer David Milch. The normies can keep Sopranos and The Wire. HBO's finest product to date was Deadwood. Next! Without venturing too terribly far into spoiler territory, one of my comic's main characters is a one-armed gunfighter, a trope that's appeared in westerns a number of times, from the French comic Bouncer to an oft-forgotten visionary replacement show from the early 60s entitled Tate. In the title role was David McLean. Yes, that David McLean. The motherfucking Marlboro Man was in a Western. And not just any Western, but a downbeat, surprisingly ambiguous one centering around the adventures of a Civil War veteran whose left arm is irreparably maimed at the Battle of Vicksburg, after which he hires out his one good gun arm as a bounty hunter while rocking a killer black leather sling around his gimp arm, all suffused with massively macho dialogue with omnipresent underpinnings of philosophy.
You think we can't stop you?
6 of you ought to be able to kill me. Keeping Clay Barton means enough.
Saving John Barton hurt means enough for every man in this town.
I'm not looking at men. I'm looking at a mob.
Why? What'll you prove? That one hand can draw as fast as two?
Well, it's about the only thing a one-armed man can do as well.
How many dead when it's all over? Something else for me to have to live with that'll grow.
Plant hate, you get a full crop.
Tate is basically Have Gun, Will Cripple, with many of the same stars, directors, and writers as the aforementioned show. Indeed, Tate was created by the same man, Harry Julian Fink, who a few years later would also give birth to a fella by the name of Dirty Harry. But that ain't all it discovered. From a young Leonard Nimoy as a Native American character, to perennial Western bad guy James Coburn, Martin Landau, Ted DeCorsia, and others, at the time, Tate was all but ignored and only lasted a single season. But with the benefit of hindsight, this show deserved to stick the fuck around. Hell, playing a young bounty hunter on Tate would in fact launch the career of a young Robert Redford.
Tate! Tate!
choice.
Only to die.
You saw how it happened. Tell it that way.
In the waning days of the television Western, Tate was a singular standout. It's in the public domain now, and so you can watch it in its entirety on YouTube, which I absolutely suggest you do. Next!
What's your business with those tin pans, Reverend?
Nothing, they're just friends.
Well, you and your friends got 24 hours to pack up and leave. My men will ride through that canyon and run you out. I've been a law-abiding man, but now I'm out of patience. And any blood gets spilled will be on your hands.
The Ghost of the Badlands is an elemental Western, a tale of divine retribution delivered by an earthly emissary operating on the Old Testament God's behalf. And in this, it is unrepentantly inspired by Clint Eastwood's magnum opus, Pale Rider. Whereas Hang 'em High had featured a man unsuccessfully hanged by shitbags only to track 'em all down and dispense revenge, High Plains Drifter began toying, but not fully committing, to the concept that this mysterious stranger may in fact be a desert phantom. Pale Rider, meanwhile, is fully fucking committed to that concept. The preacher spawns from mountain fog after an adolescent girl's entreaty through prayer, and from that moment forward, he painstakingly puts the scales back in balance, dispensing one gap-toothed thug at a time on behalf of a beset town, until finally a face from his past emerges from the shadows to restore order, only to come face to face with an outright ghost. No sooner has heaven's justice been meted out than the preacher again vanishes into the ether, never to be seen again. His name and purpose concealed from beginning to end, only able to be interpreted through his actions.
Who are you? Who are you, really?
Well, it really doesn't matter, does it?
No.
High Plains Drifter, I find, kicks up more dust with Western fans, but for my money, Pale Rider is the better executed of the two. A formative influence for the comic book to come. Next!
What's wrong, Sheriff? Why can't a man provide for his old age?
I don't think you're gonna make it. Sooner or later, you're gonna meet up with someone faster than you.
Well, that'll be an amusing day. Mighty.
No surprises here, I'm afraid. I've been fairly open in my appreciation of Sergio Corbucci's subversive spaghetti western In the Snow for some time. But what I hadn't fully appreciated until I began writing one of my own was just how much of a divine retribution western it truly is. I mean, think about it. A lone figure, the bane of bounty killers, rides out of the snow as if bidden by the unspoken command of a grieving widow who explains in no uncertain terms just what a legend of the Old West he truly is.
And the bounty killers sure do tremble when he appears. They call him Silence, because wherever he goes, the silence of death follows.
He does battle with corrupt townspeople and bounty killers, standing in defense of a group of outlaws hiding in the hills having been persecuted for their religious beliefs. The original script described them as Mormon, by the way, which is all well and good, though I wouldn't want my sisters to date one. This is as close to an Eastwood-style mysterious stranger as you're ever likely to get. And depending on which ending you prefer, it may even wind up with the hero vanquishing the villain while wearing a literal medieval gauntlet, a clear reference to Silence being a knight without armor in the black-clad mustachioed tradition of Paladin. Or It's an utterly nihilistic take on the genre, where good rarely wins and evil men thrive so long as they're shielded by the murderous hand of the U.S. government.
There's a bounty on each one. We'll come back and collect him later. All according to the law.
Neither ending is perfect, and both are clunkily shot and written, though it's worth mentioning that according to the film's star, Jean-Louis Trintignant, the so-called happy ending wasn't tacked on at all. It was, in fact, the original ending and was actually found in the shooting script. When the actor suggested an alternate ending with a darker climax, Corbucci was initially skeptical, but he still gave it a fucking whirl all the same. The rest is history. One of the most shocking spaghetti westerns ever shot, slathered in one of the finest film scores Ennio Morricone ever recorded. From his dark attire to his taciturn demeanor to the mechanical European pistol on his hip, silence was a singular inspiration for the eponymous ghost of our new comic. And if you find yourself digging this film as much as I do, you may well enjoy our comic as well. Now, there's a whole hell of a lot more that spawned the Ghost of the Badlands. Video games like Hunt Showdown and Call of Juarez, other films like Holy Ghost and the Sartana series, but fuck you, buzzing dildos. It's my list, and it's already 10 deep. Watch this shit first, and then get back to me. Till next time, partners, I'm Razor Fist. God fucking speed.
Anybody killed or hurt?
Yep. All of you.